What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another What You Think video. Today we'll be discussing the two-part episode, the premiere of X-Men 97. I'm Alvin.
How's it going, guys? It's me, Amir.
Yeah, so I guess before we get started, Amir, I know Cyclops, he was pretty dope in this, but
He
also
was
you can
good.
kind of
He
just,
he made the show. He is the
no, I
X-Men.
agree.
He
I
made the
agree. I
show.
can see why you're a Cyclops fan, but you look really dumb. So take those sunglasses off, bro. There's no way you're gonna put it for the whole video, please. This guy pulled up on the video already having the sunglasses on, as if he knew,
I
right?
had
So
to.
I, I'm gonna call you out on it. I'm sorry, bro. But like, you can't. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's cringe. I'm gonna be honest, it's cringe.
To my Cyclops
Cringe.
fans, I tried. I did this for you guys, but the sunglasses are coming off. To another pair of sunglasses. Let's go. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to What Do You Think? And like Alvin said, we are talking about X-Men 97. The series just premiered this week, and we are talking all about it. We're talking about the first two episodes and kind of our thoughts on what does this mean for the MCU? What does this mean for Marvel animation? There's a lot of interesting things we can talk about, but let me first pass it off to Alvin, because you said to me earlier in the week that you like the X-Men, but you didn't grow up with them. You like the characters, but you didn't grow up with the show. You don't have this same nostalgia for ba-da-na-na-na-na, ba-da-na-na-na. Yeah, you grew up with X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, kind of tell us, what are your thoughts on X-Men 97? You said you didn't finish the original series. Do you feel like you were lost at any bit? Like, yeah, let us know. What'd you think?
No, so this show, I mean, so you guys already know this show is amazing. We're not going to talk about if it was good or not. Go into it knowing it's going to be good. But for me, it all worked even without having the nostalgia and the knowledge of the prior cartoons. The only thing you need to know is X-Men and the character. Like, even if you have a tenuous knowledge of who these characters are, that's it. You don't need to really know anything else, right? Because it picks up like it doesn't let up. Like, it just starts on a sprint, I will say.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was interesting. I
So
think this is almost, it feels like a sequel to it's a new season in the original series, technically, but it also surprisingly almost feels like a fresh start. Like, the beginning of the series, like, we see the mutants, we see, like, they're fighting the Sentinel. It feels very reminiscent of, like, instead of saving Jubilee the first time, they're saving Sunspot. So it feels familiar, but so fresh, so original. And I had to say, I loved it. I watched it with my three brothers yesterday on Saturday, and we grew up with the X-Men. That was our shit. X-Men Legends, all of the TV shows, the movies. So us just watching this again as adults, this was like an incredible viewing experience where I have not seen all of us love something this much in a very long time. I think if you are an X-Men fan, you can breathe easy, you can rest easy knowing they did it justice. We were very worried that they're just using the title for the nostalgia. It's gonna feel like Marvel What If. We were worried about the animation, but everything surprisingly works. And what I was telling Alvin and Omid, I'm like, this should not have worked as well as it did. Like, it is a miracle how incredible these first two episodes were. And it's like, I hope this can be a signal of what is to come for the MCU. I'm not going to hold my breath there, because I think the reason why this worked incredibly well is almost the antithesis to what the MCU is now. I think X-Men 97 does not need to worry about fitting into the grand scheme, any phases, any other characters aside from their own. And I think that is why it works so well. It's a contained, story. And what we're seeing with the MCU, they're like they're so scattered right now. We're seeing they're trying to do King. They don't know what to do with the Eternals. They're trying to do Thunderbolts. They're trying to do New Captain America. They can't do Blade, apparently. Everything we keep hearing every week, there's someone else that drops the project. So I am just incredibly dumbfounded by how well this worked. And I want Disney to take the right lessons from this and not the wrong ones. Like Alvin, you were kind of mentioning earlier about. I'll let you kind of talk about it. What have you been seeing people discuss after seeing these first two episodes online?
Yeah, so after the premiere, you just kind of have been seeing a lot of discourse of, oh, Disney, Marvel, please bring, Spider-Man back, Spider-Man 98, that's what they're calling it now.
Yeah.
Please bring back Wolverine and the X-Men, Spectacular Spider-Man, Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes, all these cartoons from our childhood, that did mean a lot to us, but these fans are clamoring Marvel and Disney to, reboot these series. And I will say, as cool as that would be, you can't just do that. You can't, capture lightning in a bottle again, because it's at that point you're kind of becoming what you are, where you're just kind of churning things out and you're focusing on quantity over quality. I will happily take an X-Men 97 over the past four MCU films. I'm being honest. Or
MCU
the past
films
four
and
MCU
their
projects.
shows. I would take me personally. I would take X-Men '97 over the last 2-3 years of Marvel projects, aside from maybe like No Way Home. But even then, I think this is leagues above anything the MCU has done in a very very long time. So I agree. I agree.
Dude.
And yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like it feels so good to see these characters again. Like I forgot how much I missed seeing X-Men characters
Yeah.
on anything, because there's been kind of a lull,
We
especially
were in
after
a
like New
famine.
Mutants.
Yeah, we were in a
Yes.
famine. We didn't get anything. They
Yes.
couldn't even mention the name aside from like She-Hulk one time. Like other than that, like we can't touch him. We can't talk about him. So
Yeah.
yeah. And I think
I don't know.
what is so refreshing to see in particularly these first two episodes is every character has something to do. They all have their standout moment. Like if you like whoever your favorite character was on the team, I bet you're gonna have a moment where your jaw drops in these first two episodes. They're incredible. Like I know we're seeing the respect for Cyclops finally come to fruition, and I'm so here for it because I have loved Cyclops for so long, and we have never been given our fair shake. People always misunderstood Cyclops because of the movies, and even though I love the Singerverse, those movies are incredible. I do think even though James Marsden was perfect casting, they just never got to use him as well as they could have. And with what we're seeing here is that they understand each and every character. They're putting them in situations that challenges them. Like we were talking to Nick earlier, the whole dynamic between Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto at the end, that is tragic. Where I'm like, the fact that they're even giving like Gambit this really emotional like B plot, I'm like so here for it because he's always like the fun, goofy character. But they're putting these characters in situations like what we saw with Storm. What happened? Are we going into spoilers or can we talk about
Yeah, I would
spoilers?
say so. This is a discussion, not a review. So if you
Exactly.
haven't seen it, go watch it and then come
Yeah.
back to hear our thoughts. Yeah.
Exactly. And like with what we're seeing with Storm, they mentioned how she's like the closest thing to a goddess that they have, and when Jean is talking to her, asking, maybe I want my child to be human and not a mutant, so they don't have to worry about the same issues we do. And you're seeing Storm kind of tell her about like what it means to be a mutant, and you should be proud of who you are, and the fact that she loses her powers, she doesn't know who she is now. Like the fact that lightning strikes and she is scared for the first time since she was a kid, that is amazing. Like that is such good writing. They understand these characters, they know what to do with them, and it's incredible. Like Alvin was saying, I don't want them to take the wrong lessons from this and think that it worked because of the nostalgia. It worked because they had the right team working on this. They brought back original voice actors, they brought back new voice actors who can elevate the material. They brought in the original creators, Eric and Julia Leiwold. They brought in, I believe his name is Larry Hudson. He was a storyboard director. All of these original legacy people that are helping supervise this, and people that grew up on that series wanting to make their imprint, wanting to pay respect, wanting to evolve the series. I'm like, this is how you do it. It's not focused on cameos, Easter eggs. You get some of that, but it's not at the cost of the story. And I think this was just incredible, and I I think hopefully they can take the right lessons for when they're casting their X-Men in the live action. Like when we're talking to Omid about Wolverine, that's Omid's favorite X-Men character, and they use him sparingly in these first 2 episodes, and you just see how different he is than Hugh Jackman. I think Hugh Jackman is an incredible Wolverine, but I think there is a not a misunderstanding, but like it's just a different character that Hugh Jackman is playing. Like there are pros and cons to both, and I really hope that the live action one in the MCU is focused on recasting Wolverine and not focused on recasting Hugh Jackman. So like, I know apparently we might be getting a variant of Hugh Jackman that is going to be played, or a variant of Wolverine that might be played by Henry Cavill. I hope that's not the case, because I'm like, the character is 5'3". How hard is it to find a short actor? You're not getting someone that looks like the character. That's an integral part to Wolverine. So I hope they know what they're doing. They take the right lessons. They cast the right people. But yeah, I mean, I love this even as a fan of the original, as a fan of the X-Men, because I was worried. I'm like, with them succeeding here, part of me is like, man, now we're gonna see a new flood of fans for X-Men. I'm like, am I ready to see this? Am I ready to share Cyclops with all these people? But I think it's like, as I get older, like, yeah, because other people like something that I like doesn't mean I like it any less. It means that we're sharing in that love. Like, I think Jen and Keanu they were just making a joke like, hey, Amir, get ready for your character to become overrated. And I'm like, I've been waiting for Cyclops' love for like 25 years. I'm not, because other people are liking it, it's not going to ruin the character for me. It's the same thing. Like, I will never hate Spider-Man because Tobey Maguire means so much to me. Cartoon Spider-Man means so much. The video games mean so much to me that even though I don't like Tom Holland as much or Andrew Garfield, that can't ruin my love because it's so precious to me. But yeah, good stuff.
That was really, really. You went on like a monologue right there, bro. Like you can tell how much X-Men and this cartoon means to you. I don't want to go too much into the content of the episodes because we can just be gushing about it all day. But like you said, each character has a moment to shine. Dude, I understand. Like Cyclops was always dope to me.
Yeah.
But he was always like the Boy Scout. He was always kind of the straight
stick in the mud
guy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but seeing him actually get a chance to lead versus just doing the professor's orders, oh my God. And the amount of people that found out that and learned this week that Cyclops' powers are not laser beams, but concussive blasts, that like blew my mind. Cause dude, when he's falling from the X-Jet and he does the fall. Oh my God.
It's so good.
I rewatched that clip so many times.
I agree.
So many times for the fact that YouTube recommended me a compilation of all of Cyclops' beams in the X-Men live action movies, and James Marsden, he's great. Looks the part, but I have the same sentiment as you. They could for sure have done more.
Yeah.
They pivot too much focus on Wolverine, where they had this great ensemble of characters and actors they could have focused on, but instead they chose to focus on Jean, Wolverine.
Yeah, which I don't blame, because at the time it's like, superheroes weren't as superhero movies weren't it wasn't proven. So I'm like, I get it. They're like, we're just gonna focus on the one character. But I think, like you're saying now, they can learn from that and not just have the one character be the spotlight. Share the love. And I think that's what you see here is they are sharing the love. They're sharing the spotlight. So, but yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I think I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said because this is getting universal praise and it's so well deserved. Yeah, it's just this show. I kept thinking about it even after I watched it, and it just kind of stays with you. How man, I can't believe how they aren't back in the pop culture after a few years, right? It's like it's all Avengers stuff, and I'm like, after seeing X-Men this past the past few days, I'm like, dude, I miss them. Like they need to take Avengers needs to take a back seat because you kind of forget how powerful, how diverse they are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's so cool.
I think one thing that we were talking about to Omid and Nick before we were recording is I think the one of the strongest parts of the X-Men that you don't see in the Justice League, you don't see it in the Avengers, you don't see it like in Teen Titans, is this feels like a family first, team second. You know, like the Avengers, I love them, but they don't. They feel like they're college friends. You know, like oh, they know each other, but they have their cliques and like they'll get a beer every once in a while. But these guys, they all feel like they are related. They know each other so well. They love each other, and that's I think what endears them so well. And I think, like you're saying, this is going to be a shift in the pop culture where I think the reason why the MCU is falling is because we're bored of the characters that they've been giving us the last 10 years. Like the Avengers were great. They were the underdogs when that happened. It was everyone only knew the X-Men. So I think it's like the seesaw. It's gonna tip back. It's gonna be like now it's the X-Men's turn again. So I think you're right. But
I'm so hyped.
yeah, it's great. Like let me
so
ask you, because I know you said today you were going through the original series, and I'm curious. I want to ask you what your thoughts are on watching it from the outside perspective, because I have some thoughts on X-Men, the original series, but what were your thoughts going into it, in 2024?
Are you talking about going into it the original series or
The original.
97?
No, the original, not 97, the original stuff that you were watching.
So I think the biggest issue was just the animation.
Okay.
I think also that's the same issue that I do have on this one. If there's any issue at all with this series, for me it's just the animation. They're trying to emulate it where it doesn't need to be emulated. You can still have the same designs. I totally get what they were going for, but if it's just personal preference, I suppose. It's cool that they respected the source material. But going into the original, yeah, it's just a bit slow. There's a lot of just dead air and like downtime, and I think the pacing of the original show is very catered towards ad breaks
Yeah.
because you notice it.
Yeah.
Versus with the new series, because it's on streaming, you don't need to have that mandate anymore, where it's just one narrative, it flows, right? Versus when you're watching it back then, you would have like 7-minute chunks,
Yeah.
and then it would kind of distract you. So yeah, I think going into it, it's cool getting more X-Men stories that maybe I wasn't familiar with, but I would much rather just kind of have gotten into 97 without
Mhm.
the prior things from the
Yeah,
cartoons
I
back
don't
then.
think you need it. I don't think you need it because I agree. I think even though I love the original X-Men series, I do think like the holy trinity of the animated series in the 90s and 2000s was Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series, and I think going back to it now, even I think as a kid, I always thought it was good. It's great, but I don't think it's on the same storytelling level as Batman and Spider-Man. I think there are like you're saying pacing issues, and I think that is okay to acknowledge that. Even now, like I have two different friends who haven't seen the new X-Men 97 yet because they're running through X-Men the original series. I'm like, that is so interesting that you're doing that. Like, that's great. That's awesome. But I think like this one you don't need to, especially if you watched it when you were younger. I think that works out perfectly because I don't want you to get burnt out. If you're going through 6 seasons or 5 seasons, I don't want you to get burnt out once you get to the really, really good stuff. But yeah, I mean that's really cool to see that even if you didn't have the same like childhood nostalgia for that series, how well this works for you. Because even surprisingly, I I thought I was not gonna like the animation because I saw the trailers. I'm like, oh, it feels a little like stunted. And I think aside from like the lip sync, because it feels like the lips move a little bit slower than the actual dialogue itself. I actually loved the animation. I thought it was incredible. Like I went in thinking I wasn't gonna like it, and I was like, wow, this blew me away. I thought it looked really great. Where I don't know how expensive it was to animate this, but I'm hoping that for like Marvel Zombies and Marvel What If they can kind of switch it to this, because I think this really, really worked for everyone, and it feels like like a comic book. And I think that is the one of the biggest turnoffs for me for What If is I don't think it looks nice. Like I watched a couple episodes, and like, damn, there's some good stories here, but it doesn't look good to me. Like the characters, since they're trying to look like the actors' counterparts, like sometimes it looks like them, the other times it has like the uncanny valley effect. And like, I see what you're going for, but you didn't nail it. So it's a very, very interesting time for Marvel in this like transition phase. Does this give you faith in Deadpool? That we saw how well they handled the animated series. Is this, you think, a universal like respect for the X-Men property? Do you think Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are going to be able to get a slam dunk here because they love the characters as much as the animated series, or do you think that is going to fall into the usual MCU traps?
That's another good question from you, Amir. Another banger of a question.
If there's one thing
Um,
I know X-Men.
all right. All right, bro. But I guess going back to the question, I think it's no pun intended, but I think it's a whole different beast because, one is a cartoon and one is a cinematic kind of medium
Hmm.
where I trust, as much as I don't want the mutants to be bogged down with the MCU isms,
I agree.
but I still have optimism for what Reynolds is cooking up and Jackman and Levy. Um, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt right now,
Hmm.
but I think the thing that makes this show work is that it is isolated.
I
We've
agree.
talked about this. It
Yeah.
doesn't connect to anything. It does not feel like homework.
No.
So if you are going into Deadpool 3, it kind of does feel like homework because you have to watch the X-Men stuff, the Deadpool stuff, and then
And also apparently Loki too, because of the TVA. Like honestly,
yeah,
I don't
I
think,
forgot about that.
because I know all of the Singerverse stuff like the back of my hand. I don't plan on watching Loki for this. I'm like, I shouldn't have to. And if that is at the fault of the movie, then so be it. Maybe we'll watch
Yeah.
an explained video. Maybe you can give me like a breakdown on anything I need to know for Loki. But I agree. Like I think that's why this didn't feel like homework, and I'm hoping Deadpool and Wolverine feels the same way in that it's focused on telling a Deadpool story, not a story that has Deadpool in it. There is a integral difference with that. Yeah.
Thank
So.
you, Amir.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do want to ask you, I guess, so what are things that the MCU can learn from, what happened with X-Men 97 then?
I think one of the biggest things that I notice with the show is the importance of making the character the star. And I think this is something that the MCU has failed in recent years, is that they're just casting iconic actors or famous actors or trending actors like Pedro Pascal. I love the guy. He's great. But I think with their stunt casting, it makes the character become the actor. But when you watch X-Men 97, you realize, like, man, these characters have so much to them. Don't dilute them with making them Tony Stark light, like the fifth version of Tony Stark or the fifth version of Peter Quill. These guys all have their own unique personality. Use it. That's what made, like, with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, it's Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire is amazing, but it's because they understand the character of Peter. Hugh Jackman, he understood Wolverine. That's why he works so well. All these actors, like, that's my biggest thing is I want them to step away from, making every male like main character they have the same schlubby personality. Like I love Ant-Man, I love Paul Rudd, but I saw a lot of people saying in like recent memories, like, man, they should have had their Ant-Man be Hank Pym because Hank Pym is a much more interesting character than Scott Lang. And I'm like, they actually have a point there. Like, uh, Hank Pym has issues that he's going through. There's interesting dynamics that he has with Janet and his questionable choices that he makes. And that is, I agree, like that could have been way more interesting than what we got with, even though I love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, it just feels like Paul Rudd in the MCU. So I think having that is, I think one of their most important lessons that they need to learn is make the characters the stars again. And I think what they need to learn too, it's okay to kind of take your time and space your stuff out. Like I'm seeing some people now say like, oh, in the MCU, I want to have at least a Cyclops solo film, I want a Storm solo film, and a Wolverine solo film. I'm like, dude, you guys are idiots. Like the X-Men are amazing because they're together. Like you don't need to like have 5 different projects going on, so you're always getting the X-Men every moment. Like make them feel like an event again. Make them feel like a family that even if you see every couple of years, like, all right, I can pick up just like that. Like we know each other so well, so I want them to not be bogged down with useless spin-offs. Like I don't want to keep bagging on Ant-Man, but I'm like, Ant-Man and the Wasp, do we need that? Like what are some other useless MCU films? Like
The
I
Marvels.
yeah, even like the Marvels had issues, and like I don't know if we necessarily needed that. Like the Ms. Marvel show, that was great. Um,
Thor.
yeah, like do we really need 4 Thor movies? Do we really need like
Echo.
yeah, it's like they need to, I think, just space out their stuff. Like they were focused more on quantity over quality. So those are a couple of my things. But what do you feel like they can learn from this? What do you hope that they learn from this?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to yours. I think the the first thing that came to mind was you need to focus that it's an ensemble.
Yes.
So each character needs a moment to shine. You like the biggest thing to me was James Gunn's take on the Guardians, where each character did have a moment to shine
Hmm.
throughout the trilogy, right? Um, Also, I wouldn't, you have to be drastically different. You cannot just repeat or interpret what worked and then just put it on the big screen. Like, I guarantee you they're thinking about, oh, how are we going to make our X-Men different? Let's just do X-Men from the cartoons and just put it on the live action, right?
Yeah.
It's like the reverse of whatever Netflix is doing with One Piece or Last Airbender. They think because it worked, let's put it in a different medium and it's going to work again. That's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, this might be controversial, but I I don't know if you really need a Professor X because even though he is
Hmm.
not in this series, he's not in these episodes, I will say, his presence is still felt in every second,
Yeah.
right? So you can have Scott actually be the leader. You don't have to retread, do the first class team. You don't have to have, Iceman, Beast, Professor X, Power Girl,
Marvel
and
Girl.
Marvel Girl. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. An
Power
Angel.
Girl's the DC one, but
That's
Angel,
insane.
right? Like,
That actually I think is a very interesting take that I've not seen anyone online say, because you're pretty much saying like we don't need another Uncle Ben. We don't need necessarily another Professor X, because we were talking about this earlier. Like, how are they gonna get like magic in a bottle 3 times with their casting? Like, they got lucky with Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy both being amazing Charles Xavier's. Like, that's actually I
and the
think not a bad
Magnetos,
take. And the Magnetos, both of
and the
them, like
Magnetos.
they got so lucky that those 4 actors played those characters so well. And I think that is honestly a really good take. I am not against
Yeah,
that, because you're right.
no,
Like we've seen them done. I wouldn't mind getting them to take a break.
yeah. So, and I also think just adapt stories that haven't been done, right? The X-Men, that's the reason why I enjoy the Fox verse and having the MCU be separate because you can tell very diverse stories without having any overlap, right?
Yeah.
So the X-Men universe in itself, that's why I'm calling it the X-Men universe, even though they're already still connected to the whole overarching Marvel comic universe, is because X-Men in itself is this sub genre in the Marvel universe where you can tell so many stories with so many different characters because mutants just in general, like the nature of mutants is privy to those stories. You
Yeah.
don't have to have too many crossovers. Actually, I don't even want. I can already
No
see it,
cameo.
Amir. I'm telling you, dude. In like 2032 or something, they're gonna have an Avengers versus X-Men movie. I would not want that. Please, they don't need to have. They're fighting for a bit and then they take on a bigger force. You can just have them coexist without having a reference every single time,
I,
right?
I yeah, that's actually interesting too, because I wouldn't mind seeing an X-Men versus Avengers movie maybe in like in the future. But what I do agree with you is I actually don't want to see any of the Marvel MCU characters in the X-Men. Like everyone loves seeing cameos, right? But I'm like, the X-Men universe, like you're saying, you're not calling it like the MCU. You're saying the X-Men universe. There are so many characters here where I'm like, don't waste your time putting Iron Man or Captain America. Like, let the X-Men shine through. I don't need these Avengers hopping in. Like you're saying, like, yeah, if you don't want the Avengers versus X-Men, that's fair. But one thing I will say why I do want to see an Avengers versus X-Men eventually is because what it can mean for Cyclops. And I'm here for
Yes,
that.
I know what you're gonna say because I don't know how it goes in the comics, but you're probably gonna say because the X-Men can defeat the Avengers and it shows how superior the X-Men
No,
are.
not actually. No, no, no.
No?
What I mean,
Really?
yeah. So I'm not like an ego because I know personally if the X Men were to fight the Avengers, I would say the X Men would win because I like the X Men way more. But what I mean more so is because in the Avenger versus X Men story, the book, it is such an uh, important arc for Cyclops. You know, this is really showing what makes Cyclops different than Captain America. Like one thing I will always tell people, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that they have about Cyclops, and it probably is not the fault of the original X-Men series, but because so many people have a deep love for that series, but they don't necessarily take in any other X-Men material. They only see Cyclops as, like you're saying, like the leader, this white knight. But with Avengers X-Men, they kind of show the psychology of someone who is being told, you know, you are the first son of the X-Men, you are the leader, you are the savior of our race or our species. What does that do to someone? And kind of the ego that comes with that. And there are so many great stories for Cyclops, like Astonishing X-Men, Second Coming, Messiah Complex, like all of these really great stories, Uncanny X-Men, where it shows Cyclops being more than just the Boy Scout, the more radical, perfect mix between Magneto and Charles. So that is the only reason why I would really like to see an Avenger versus X-Men. But I understand that's probably going to be years down the line where they want to establish Cyclops as maybe the version that everyone knows and loves rather than challenging that just yet. But that's my 2 cents on that. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off
No.
there.
No, it's fine. I think that literally is just the biggest takeaway on how you differentiate the MCU X-Men versus the Fox X-Men is give Cyclops a character, make him a character, bro. Like literally he is so good
Yeah.
in other mediums where like it's so crazy to me how they haven't been able to translate it into a proper form, I guess, on live action, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was a lack of ability. It was a lack of interest in the character. They're like, we have to have a face. How do you make Wolverine even cooler? You got to give him a rival. By giving him a rival, it means Cyclops is less interesting, and no one's going to want to side with him. So that is, I think, the most important thing here that we're seeing is I think Marvel, they're going to make it their mission to make Cyclops. I don't know if he's going to be the face of the Marvel Universe, but he will be the face of the X-Men for damn sure. But
I'm so hyped when that
yeah.
day comes, bro.
Let me ask you one last thing before we sign off. You were saying no Charles. Is that the same thing, no Magneto?
Yeah, I would say no Magneto. Have the
Really?
X-Men already be established and do Mr. Sinister. Do other, please just don't rehash. You don't need to keep doing the same thing over and over again, but differently.
Mm-hmm.
You can just let go. You know how the MCU didn't do Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
Just, let go of that. Like, the fans can come up with the stories in their heads of what happened to Charles and what happened to Eric, right?
Yeah.
But now I want to see them moving forward with the universe rather than starting at a place that we already know where it goes to, right?
That's fair.
Do Mr. Sinister, do the Shi'ar, do Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
We're seeing that right here.
Yeah.
Bring actually Cable, bring Josh Brolin back, or at least
I
do
agree.
a proper form of Cable.
I love Josh Brolin as Cable. I'm like, that was, I think, one of the biggest losses to Deadpool 3 was Domino and Cable not being in that movie. I'm like, there is such a great message, and I swear to God, Colossus better play a big role in this. I do not want him to only be in that opening and maybe a joke here and there. Like, I want him to be a big part of this movie. You don't think he will be? You think he's just going to be like
No.
5 minutes?
I think the Deadpool cast is going to be in it for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but the focus is going to be on Wade and it's going to be on Logan with
Jesus.
a bunch of different ancillary. It's going to be like a goodbye to the Foxmen before they transition to the MCU.
Is it a goodbye or you think a middle finger?
I think it's gonna try to be respectful as possible, but also, dude,
So
you're
you don't
not.
think they're gonna
This is
X
not
Force
gonna be the
us?
last you see of the Foxverse. I guarantee you, this is not the last.
You don't think so?
There's too much. No, there's too much that they could exploit. You know,
Oh,
right?
yeah. So you think they're
Yeah.
gonna come back again for Secret War? But then I don't know. So I know our video is going on a little long, but I mean this is I think one of the best discussions that we've had in a long time. Is I don't know if you heard this new theory that I don't know if it's a theory or a leak or a rumor, but have you heard about this anchor concept in Deadpool?
I don't
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, I don't like that either. So like, does that line up with the idea that if their anchor is dead in the Foxverse, maybe they don't bring him back? Maybe this truly is the final goodbye. I don't know.
I would respect if Sean Levy, Ryan Reynolds, Jackman, and Disney and Feige. I would 100% respect if they had the balls for some type of finality to a universe that we once loved. But look at the previous movies that have come out in the past 4 years, dude. Are
Yeah.
you serious? There's absolutely no way that they're not just gonna bring them back. If
That
if they
sucks.
can bring back Kelsey Grammer Beast in the Marvels, the dude like he was great in X3,
Yeah.
but like he didn't like that's the most random cameo I could have ever thought of to put in a Marvel like a Captain Marvel movie. And I don't know if you heard
It
this.
was cheap.
They tried to bring back yes, they tried to bring back Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut in Deadpool 3, but he had to
Oh.
decline because he didn't want to put the suit back on because it's just too much, it's
Yeah.
taxing on a person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they're going to Vinnie Jones, when they already have a Juggernaut in the universe,
Yeah. What?
if they're
Yeah.
going
I
to
mean,
Vinnie Jones,
yeah. The fact that shows you like, oh, they're just doing whatever it takes to tug at the nostalgia strings, which I don't want that to be the case for Deadpool. And like we were saying, guys, we were talking about Deadpool 3, and I really don't want Deadpool 3 to just be like a cameo movie. I really want it to be more than just that because the Foxverse meant a lot to me as a kid. I know it meant a lot to a lot of other people. So I hope it's not just a massive like X-Force scene from Deadpool 2 where they're just bringing all these characters back to kill them because that'll just feel cheap, like you're saying, where you're just bringing back these actors for the nostalgia of it. But I mean, we are eating really well as X-Men fans, which I'm very happy to say. I hope we get to keep it up this way. I think the rest of the season is going to be amazing, and hopefully they learn the right lessons. Kevin Feige, if you're watching, take notes. You can have any of these ideas. Just put executive producer credits for both Alvin and I, and it's all yours, man. But I'm really curious for the fans that have been watching the series. Let us know in the comments what was your favorite aspect of this show. Who was your favorite X-Man or X-Men? Because honestly, this was just such a home run, slam dunk series, and I'm just so ready for the X-Men to take over and show everyone again why it matters. And one last thing, what I really hope that they can do is now that we're seeing the X-Men be loved again, we need an X-Men Legends 3. I'm actually replaying X-Men Legends 1 on the OG Xbox right now because that was a game that we always played as kids with all the brothers. So either give us the remasters on current gen consoles, and also I guess give us X-Men Legends 3 because that game is incredible. But anything else,
also
Alvin?
Ultimate Alliance.
Oh
Need
yeah,
another Ultimate Alliance game.
yeah. We did you ever try Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Switch?
No, no way.
Yeah, yeah. We tried it. It wasn't as good as the original 2. So I hope if they do another one, I hope they make it as in depth because every character only had one move per slot, which was super super limited. But yeah, I mean, you heard it from us. Give us those games now. But yeah, it's been the Well, What Do You Think crew. It's been me, Amir.
I'm Alvin.
Have a great one, guys. See you next time.